Because Star Citizen is in development, not every ship announced or sold to players is yet flyable in the game. Whilst this channel regularly reviews in-game ships for their current performance, what about those ships that are still in the development pipeline? I'm Varister, and this video will share some thoughts about 5 upcoming ships that personally capture my imagination. These are personal choices about upcoming ships that interest me, and obviously, since these ships aren't yet available in-game, these are my thoughts based on the materials published, much of which may change. So this is a little healthy speculation, and please treat it accordingly, and not as a promise of exactly what will be delivered. And many of these ships have been in development for many years after being on sale. To some of you that's okay, and to some of you that's not okay. Both perspectives are fine, but this video won't really cover that. We're here to talk about ships today, and so that's the primary focus for this one. Which leads nicely on to the first upcoming ship on the billing. The Aegis Vulcan is a small support ship, built around future gameplay loops for repair, rearming and refueling. The concept is to use drones, similar to those that used to exist on the repair platforms for those who remember them, to send across to other ships and undertake the tasks that are necessary. Announced over 5 years ago, the primary blocker here seems to be the actual gameplay functionality for running such a ship. Expected to be of a similar size to the Freelancer, the Vulcan is set to be in that zone where a solo player could operate the ship, or a small party of 2 to 3 people. Ships at that size are exciting as they become useful more of the time. And if the buzz around the recently released Vulture is anything to go by, this kind of gameplay might be quite appealing to a lot of players looking to explore something different. Naturally, the Vulcan is unlikely to be the best repair ship or the best refueling ship, but having a mobile option to perform these functions could be appealing to a support player, or equally, a small fleet in avoiding having to return to base quite so often. And the prospect of that kind of support gameplay is particularly exciting for me, having played these sort of roles in other games, so the Vulcan makes this list. Next up is the Anvil Liberator. A little more recently announced at the back end of 2021, the Liberator is supposedly a vehicle transport ship, used to move multiple vehicles around over longer distances. Naturally, players see the other potential for the Liberator, and instead of seeing this as just a transport ship, many see it as a light carrier platform, able to deploy and operate a small squadron of fighter-sized craft. For context, the Liberator is expected to be a similar size in-game to the Hammerhead. With 3 external landing pads for smaller ships and 2 internal pads for ships or ground vehicles, there are some potentially interesting use cases for this ship. Not only the practical element of being able to more easily rebase for players with a smaller fleet, that's interesting, but also the potential varied use cases for operations. The Liberator talks about having a long-range quantum drive capacity and a relatively high cargo capacity, so could to be used, for example, to host a small group of players on a mining expedition. Load up a Prospector, maybe a Hull A or Expanse, and maybe a Gladius for defense, and you have your autonomous mining operation, all operated from a single ship with key facilities for players. And it's that potential for versatility for a small group of players that makes the Liberator an interesting choice for this list. Third up is an absolute fan favourite, the Banu Merchantman. The Merchantman was announced a long time ago, almost 10 years at this point, and so has been long awaited by many players. The ship has also grown substantially over the course of development, both in in-game size but also in cost, rising from $250 to $650 to reflect the significant growth of the ship. The concept is absolutely wonderful. The idea is that the Banu society are big on trading, and so the merchantman is a mobile marketplace, combining copious cargo capacity with the shops and stalls for traders to sell their wares. The stylings and architecture aboard also looked set to be quite distinctive from the usual, and that's all combined with the sort of defensive options that you might expect from a ship of a similar length to the 890 jump currently in-game. Moreover, whilst the more complicated concept elements like onboard marketplaces could be some time away, the general idea of having a big ship with lots of cargo storage should be relatively easy to implement once the modelling of the ship is done, so it's conceivable that the merchantman could be a ship that enters the game in a flyable and mostly functional state without having to wait too long for the new systems to be developed. And that's why the merchantman is proudly featured on this video. There were a number of different ships to choose from in the unreleased ships segment, so I'm sorry if the ship that you're most excited about isn't covered. It was quite difficult to whittle down to just 5. Maybe you can let me know in the video comments, and who knows, perhaps that could be another video if you enjoyed this one. Fourth up is the RSI Orion. There are already 2 mining ships available in Star Citizen, with a mostly fleshed out mining gameplay loop. The Prospector is the small, solo player mining ship, and the Argo Mole is the multi-crew, multi-turret option for 2 to 4 players. The Orion is the next step up, or potentially the next step up and then some. Originally revealed some 8 years ago, the Orion has supposedly doubled in size from the first concept, which would make it considerably larger than any of the ships currently in-game. Why so large? Well, not only for the mining lasers and tractor beams and what have you up front, but also for plenty of cargo storage capacity for those mined goods. In theory, there are also drones to support mining operations. Obviously, a lot of this is from a time long before a fully fleshed out mining gameplay loop, so is subject to significant change, but equally, the Orion could be an incredibly interesting platform for a larger group of players looking to go out and make their fortune amongst the stars. And that's why the Orion makes this list. For regular viewers of the channel, the final upcoming ship to make the cut for this video will not be a surprise, as it's somewhat of an obsession of mine, and that's the gargantuan destroyer, the Aegis Javelin. It's also a little different from the other ships on this list because the Javelin is sort of in-game, in some forms. A wreck is visible and open to explore on Daymar, as well as an AI-controlled Javelin, the Warhammer. The Warhammer appears when special events are going on. During the Xenothreat event, it's possible to see the Warhammer in combat, and during certain expositions like Fleet Week, it's often open for limited player tours aboard in select internal areas. The ship is huge, bigger than most others in-game, and is said to be the largest player purchasable combat ship. There's a more detailed video on this channel, in fact a few, that talk about why the Javelin is such an exciting concept, but broadly speaking it's the idea of having lots of players together on one ship, working together as a single crew. A large, well-defended, gargantuan combat powerhouse that requires good teamwork. That's an exciting prospect, and that's why the Javelin class destroyer makes this list. Hopefully that's been an interesting exposition on some of the upcoming ships that seem particularly interesting. If so, you might press that like button to let me know I should make more videos like this, and if you're not already subscribed to the channel, you might like to do that too, so that YouTube knows it should show you more videos of a similar nature. Otherwise, and as always, thank you for watching.